Jamaica's shores to Guyana's golden sands. Our hearts beat strong in distant land. Trinidad's rhythm, Grenada's spice. Our culture shines, bold and bright. West Indian people, wherever we roam.
Welcome to Pan-Caribbean Pulse. I'm your host, Roma Spencer, and this is the show that brings you the heartbeat of the Pan-Caribbean world, from the pulsating rhythms of calypso and reggae to the artistic expressions of our painters, dancers, and musicians. This is where we celebrate the culture that connects us all. So please like, share, subscribe, and comment too. Tell us what moved you or not. Yo! In today's episode, we're diving into the world of supportive transitional housing and the at-risk population. We will be speaking with a social work entrepreneur, Alana Jones, who's making a difference in Toronto with her Borden Place Inc. enterprise as a young Black woman in the city, changing lives and facilitating housing opportunities for the vulnerable individuals who include those struggling with addictions, mental health, and negative interactions with the justice system, as well as social isolation. But first, let's check out what's trending in the news. It was raining money in Illinois after the back door of an armored truck accidentally opened and dropped almost $300,000 in cash. The security truck, operated by Brinks Home Security Company, was traveling southbound on Austin Boulevard in Chicago when its back door opened by unknown means and dropped 3 bags of cash. When the driver returned to the location where the door had opened, they saw between 50 to 100 people removing money from the scene and fleeing the area both on foot and in vehicles, authorities said. Adding, the total loss was estimated to be $300,000. Police are looking for suspects and are appealing to the public to return the money. I find it suspect that the Brinks van door could just fling open and a bag of money fall out. The bag ain't sealed or nothing. So as it hit the asphalt, it burst open. Here's my theory on the whole money rain. Homeboy on duty, sitting in the back of the van, tell his partners the exact time and location the van passing along the boulevard, and couple of his friends and them take the position on the sidewalk, waiting till the van pass, and as the door fling open and money start to rain, homeboys make a mad dash to reel in as much dollars as they could and pack it and take off. And that is how the whole money rain in Chicago. That is my story, and I'm sticking to it. So let them wait there for homeboys and them to come back with the money now. Donald Trump says he will bring back Columbus Day, a federal holiday in the United States that is still present and was never gone. In his tweet on the Truth Socials, Trump says he is bringing back Columbus Day from the ashes, that the Democrats did everything possible to destroy Christopher Columbus, his reputation, and all of the Italians that love him so much. Bringing back Columbus Day from where? When last I checked, it is still a public holiday in October. And to besides, where you going with that? At a time when the world decolonizing all these colonial relics and systems about the place? Why you want to big up a thief and tourist? Because that is exactly what he was. Meet the Kalinagos and the Tainos and them enjoying life in the tropics, and he come with a set of foolish trinket and disease to the first people he meet. Tell the queen that he conquered the islands for the crown, and the people welcome him with open arms and no opposition. That is what Trump want to celebrate. But you rail out a time, and we. A Toronto judge issued a temporary injunction against the removal of bike lanes on Bloor Street, Yonge Street, and University Avenue to allow more time to consider whether the move would be considered unconstitutional, as claimed in a challenge brought by a cycle group. In response to this preliminary judgment, Ford said some judges have a sense of entitlement, and when it comes to letting out repeat offenders, they lack accountability. He further declared that the politicians ran on a mandate. They get elected democratically. That judges are not elected, which is the problem. He further suggested that we should do like the United States and start electing our judges and hold them accountable. But what kind of foot and mouth business Fordy going on with now? With all the bad blood spilling between the United States and Canada, you wish for our judges' selection to be like the Americans? You see how you just endorsed Trump to make we become the 51st state in truth? This is no time in our national narrative to give any hint or innuendo about the niceness of any Uncle Sam business. No. If that is your feeling, keep it in your head. Right? Don't talk that out. Don't talk that out too loud. If you have nothing to say, then hum. But please, just leave Canada and the judges just where you find them from it. Our guest today is a true change maker. As the founder of Borden Place Inc., where she leads the transformation of a personal care rooming house to supportive housing vulnerable populations in Toronto. Now, as the founder of a not-for-profit social enterprise, she's transforming lives by creating housing opportunities and support systems for individuals facing homelessness, addiction, and mental health challenges. A dynamic young Black woman at the forefront of community innovation, she's proof that visionary leadership can create real lasting impact. So please, welcome Executive Director and author, Alana Jones. Alana, welcome again to Pan Caribbean Pulse.
Thank you so much, Roma, for having me.
And you know what? I really want to thank you for being here because, you could be at any point be called out to detention center at the airport or 31 division or 14 or 41 or whatever.
Absolutely.
So I want to thank you.
Or CAMH.
Or CAMH too. So again, thank you so much for being here. Now, I would like to know, what inspired you to step into this kind of a work? I mean, especially at such a young age.
Roma, I think the first catalyst was my brother. I remember him leaving home. It was actually a carnival time. And of course, most parents have rules. And he felt at that time that my mom had too much rules. Mm-hmm. So at age 15, with his knapsack, he left home because my mom had too much rules. By age 18, it was clear to us that he was actually homeless. By age 25, he had passed away from HIV/AIDS, right? And so that really was the first catalyst for me wanting to make a difference in community. And so by the time I migrated completely in 2002, I got involved with an organization called Black Coalition for AIDS Prevention. And I was the youth director. So at age 22, that's what I was doing. And the organization had gone through some transformation themselves, and we had lost our executive director. And in that 8 months, I was now responsible for supporting staff. So I would have to come in each Friday to look at, authorizing time off for staff, checking in, ensuring that clients were getting what they needed. And that kind of sowed a seed. I can do this. I am interested in management. But of course, when you come to this country, you don't have Canadian experience. Mm-hmm. Your CXC is not Canadian. Your NEHR certificates are not Canadian. And so I returned to George Brown with a full scholarship, right? Went to George Brown on a full scholarship to do community work.
So you got this full scholarship you would have come here on a visitor visa, right?
Yes, I did.
So you got a full scholarship, not being a resident.
Because I got immediately involved in community. So outside
So
of
that
Black
would-
Cap, I was with an organization called Serve Canada, which is no longer in operation, but they had a call in the Now newspaper, and it was asking for young people who were interested in community change. And I thought, oh, I could do that. And so I did. And so I got involved in that program, and it was an experiential program. And so if you completed this program successfully, you would get an opportunity to go to college or university, or that money could be used to start a business.
Now, your organization is doing incredible work. Now, can you walk us through a typical day at Borden Place Inc? Or is that too personal? You know, am I stepping out of bounds?
You're not. You know what? I wish I knew what a typical day was.
And that is
There
why
is-
I want to know, because
It's never a dull moment.
Mhm.
So my day, a typical day, or a day that is somewhat routine, would start with me getting calls from either staff or clients that there might be a disruption. Me heading into
what is a disruption?
someone could be experiencing, mental health psychosis. Someone could be experiencing just deep depression because of family isolation. They could be experiencing distress as of their substance use.
Okay.
And so it's disruptive. It can become disruptive. Or it can be just someone missing family, haven't heard from family, trying to call numerous times in the office and just feeling distressed about that.
And how you'll deal with that disruption?
A number of ways, right? So, of course, we follow a trauma-informed framework, which recognizes that the clients, the residents, they're experiencing stress, but also we as service providers, as frontline workers, we're also experiencing stress. And recognizing that we have to have compassion, deep compassion, we have to have empathy, and we have to be responsive based on what people are needing, not what we think they need. Right? So it might be following a harm reduction framework if someone is using. Are you getting connected to harm reduction supports and services? Are you using safely? Do you have the paraphernalia? Right? And going across the continuum all the way to abstinence. Right? Then there's also this conflict that a number of our tenants are experiencing. They're street involved, right? Family,
They what?
they're street involved.
Street involved. Yeah.
Family might, they might be isolated from family. And then there is the conversation around religion, right?
Mhm.
And so some religious organizations, you can't enter the building if you're intoxicated or if you're experiencing a high or what they call the jonesing,
You're
right?
joking. Okay.
And so there's that conflict, but also that their own moral conflict of wanting to be a better person and be a contributing person in society, and just kind of dealing with the stress of their addiction and their mental health and taking medication and the level of control sometimes that they experience because everyone is telling them to do something.
And that brings me to the next question, which is the people you support, right, are facing some of society's most complex issues: housing insecurity, addiction, mental health struggles. What are some of the biggest challenges you encounter in trying to meet their demands?
I think one of the biggest challenges is actually the resource on the ground, right? As an organization, we are not funded by the City of Toronto or the provincial government or the Ministry of Health or even the federal government.
So how do you operate?
I have to say,
let's be real here. Money begets money.
I have to say that, my faith, God has been incredibly good to this organization.
Hallelujah.
And I've realized that my network, Scotiabank has this ad that says you're richer than you think.
Okay.
Well, my network certainly was bigger than I thought.
Okay.
And so just reaching out, this year marks 25 years of me being in this environment, the nonprofit environment, as a community practitioner.
Okay.
And so I have built a vast network of individuals who I've worked with, who I've been able to reach out to say, we needed support in terms of when there was electrical problems at one of our locations. We need food. We need access to healthy meals. One of the things when we started, residents said, we want good food. Well, good food costs money, right? And so we reached out to folks and we really got the support. And most of our donation actually comes from in-kind donations, right? We had a donor when we were talking about wanting to have a clothing bank so that people, when they come to us, either from the streets or from detention or wherever they were coming from, that they had clean clothes, new clothes. There's a sense of dignity that comes with that. We got 100 boxes of clothing, more than we had, and more than we had ever expected. And so we were able to also share, right, to other organizations. And so it's really been, it's almost like that bartering system, back home.
Yeah.
You have something, I don't have it, we share with each other. And so that's how we've
Lend
been
hand.
able to, absolutely, that's how we've been able to function as an organization.
Interesting. And yet you're creating real change. What makes your approach different?
I would say...
Or is there any difference at all? I'm
You
sure
know,
there is.
One of the things I'm always going to lead to is my faith. I think the biggest thing is that I strongly feel that God brought me to this stage of the transformation, 2 years ago. And I have seen him at every step of the way make provision, right? Because when you don't have funding, it's a lot of sleepless nights.
Clearly.
It's a lot of sleepless nights. It also means that I'm wearing multiple hats, not just myself. All of the staff are wearing multiple hats, right? And so there is that need to really trust God in these situations, to kind of guide the process. And I mean, big shout out to some of our donors. I mean, Second Harvest.
Some of them.
Second Harvest, Green Standards. We have people like Cobb's Bakery. Nothing like getting fresh bread on a Thursday. And then the clients get coffee and they're like, Alana, can I have double and a croissant with that, please?
The Tim Hawkins. I mean, can you share with us a story or a moment that reminds you why this work matters?
I'll share two stories.
Yeah.
I'll share two stories. And I think, you might be familiar with one. I think I remember a client coming to me one day and he was full of so much gratitude. And it was a little bit surprising to me because when I remember doing his intake at the jail, and he was very upset and he was very angry. And as I kept working with him, we would he would get into conflict with staff a lot. And one day I said, what can I do to make your experience here? And he said, I just want you to help me to connect with family. That's all. That's all I want you. Help me to connect with family. And we did that. And of course, some staff would tell me that, oh, you were just spoiling him. He doesn't, you get it. But I wasn't giving him any special treatment because any resident can call me. They all have my phone number. Any one of them can call me, and call me they do. At 2 a.m, at 1 a.m, at 6 a.m. And I recently went to the house. I was working early, I got called out. And he said, I want you to know how much I appreciate what you have done for me. I now have a relationship with Mom and Dad. And that means something to me, and I appreciate you. And that was, it really held my heart because there and then I knew it's not about the money. It doesn't matter if the city of Toronto funded us or not. Here was a real impact.
Human interest stories.
Yes, the real impact. The other one is a young man who had come to us, and he was kind of couch surfing, and I want to couch surfing. Couch surfing. So he wasn't living rough, but he doesn't have an address to call his own.
Yes.
And I thought he was so young. I didn't think he would be successful at our location. He wasn't into like using drugs and alcohol, but he needed a place to be. And I connected with another organization to say, can you help us? Can you help us to place him? And my team will continue to do the supports. And I'm happy to report that we continue to provide case management services. He identified his goals, as with every resident. Upon intake, we always ask folks, what are your goals? How can we help you? Because our intent is to transform lives. And to transform lives, you have to know what you need to do to transform that transformation to happen, yes, right? Yes. Because they're really coming into us, what we feel is on a blank canvas, right? Here is your opportunity to have a blank canvas with us. Help us do the mapping, what we like to call community mapping at BPI. Let's do the community mapping with you. Let's put some goals on the paper so that you can go from point A to point B, right? Because it's transitional. You're not meant to live there forever. Right. This is your stepping stone, right? To get onto your other housing journey.
And what was his transformation?
And his transformation was that he became an air hostess.
You don't say air hostess and air host anymore, right? He's a flight attendant.
He's a flight attendant.
Wow, a flight attendant.
That was incredible. That was incredible. And we have tenants who have become our staff. We have tenants who have moved on to being at university. That to me is significant. Like you see someone, they come to you, they're hopeless, they don't feel that they can manage. Most folks are not connected with family, and they're not kind of addressing their issues in terms of their mental health or their addiction. And again, community partners have been incredible. CAMH has been incredible, the Center for Addiction and Mental Health, in supporting us to ensure that people get connected to the services that they need.
And as we are on the topic of support, I mean, for people watching, right, at home and want to support your mission, what can they do?
Of course, we always like to say money goes a long way. But our experience over the last 2 years have taught us cash or kind goes a long way. We have volunteers. We have a volunteer who started an English program. That's significant, right? Because you hear tenants saying, oh, ma'am, now I can have a conversation with you, right? So if you have time to volunteer with our organization, absolutely.
Speak it to the camera.
Reach out to us, info@bordenplace.org, and we will be in touch with you. On our website, we have a PayPal link that allows people to donate directly to the organization. And again, you can reach us in all of the socials, right? We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, so do reach out to us.
And what's the handle? Is Borden Place Inc.
Borden Place Inc.
On Instagram. Alana, thank you so much for your tireless work and for joining us here today. We'll be keeping a close eye on the work that you and your team at Borden Place Inc. will be doing in the future.
Thank you so much, Roma, for having me. One of the things I do want to say is that one of our earliest supporters and collaborators was the Toronto Bail program. They really understood the vision, they understood the transformation, and we couldn't do this work without them. Another collaborator was also Ebony Designs, Ebony Rose, who not only ensures that when I step out to represent the organization, that I do so in class, I do so really connected to the community that I work with, and it allows me to be a part of the transformation, okay? Making a statement.
Well, okay. Look at that. Ebony Creation. Where is she situated? Oh,
Ebony Rose. Ebony Rose is actually out in Trinidad. But you can certainly find her on her handle, Ebony Rose.
And just like that, Ebony Rose get a bly on Pan Caribbean Pulse. We've been talking with Alana Jones, collaborative professional, community innovator, and executive director of Borden Place Inc. I am in awe with persons who can take on the work of caring and providing support to our vulnerable communities. Alana Jones and her Borden Place Inc. team's work in the city is commendable because she's a young Black entrepreneur keeping company with all the big social enterprise organizations in Ontario. And she needs all the support there is, if only because she dared to be, even without the big funding sources in the beginning. And that is the essence of Pan Caribbean Pulse, celebrating our achievements, documenting the past, celebrating the present, and looking ahead to the future of our culture. Sankofa. Thank you for watching Pan Caribbean Pulse, and remember, support local artists, designers, and creators. Every purchase keeps our culture alive and thriving. In these trying times, spend your money wisely. Read the label and buy local. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss a beat of our stories from the heart of the Pan-Caribbean world. So until next time, keep the pulse throbbing and let the rhythm flow. Bye-bye.
West Indian people, wherever we roam, the islands still echo in every home. From Montserrat's hills to Cuba's delight, we're forever united, our spirit alight. Though scattered far, our bond is tight.